Hello Wolfpack. The fact of the matter is with Bitcoin right now is that it's extremely oversold going into major support. Now 20k is the support zone that's stemming all the way back from 2017. And this is not a reason for Bitcoin to bottom out here per se, but it is a reason for Bitcoin to consolidate here and find some solid ground, at least for a little bit. And that's what I'm kind of looking for Bitcoin to do here. We're going into the weekend. It is Saturday here in Australia, and it will be Saturday here in America as well, there in America as well. So the S&P 500 is closed now, and usually on the weekend you don't see that much, erratic price action, and so the weekend could be a time for Bitcoin to just sideways consolidate. The only problem with that is that we have 48 hours, just under 48 hours until the weekly candle closes. And as you guys would know, the 200-week SMA has been the macro bottom indicator on every single drop. That's 3 drops here, here, and here in Bitcoin's price history, right? We are about to close under the 200-week SMA if we cannot get back above 22.3k on the weekly candle within the next 48 hours. Now, this is interesting because, as I said, the weekend is a time in which not much happens. And given the price region, we actually need to climb a 10% pump on Bitcoin in order to get back above the 200-week SMA within the next 48 hours in order to kind of salvage the idea for the macro bottom to be on the 200-week SMA. So very intense times in the market now. It's really heating up. Now, will we get back over it? It's very, very hard to say. I'm not going to try and predict it, but what I can say is that we are oversold, right? And it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a bounce back up above it. And even then, even if we bounce back above it, right, I still think we will lose it later in the year. I still think we'll lose it probably over the next couple of months, but it would surprise me slightly if we just lost it straight away on the first time of retesting it, right? I wouldn't expect that to happen, but who knows at this point. The TA in the short term, very unreliable. I think we've seen that in the past few weeks, where we've just had constantly been, Bitcoin's basically been oversold since 35k, and we've just been, going down regardless. I mean, we consolidated for a month. If we go back to the daily chart, we consolidated for a month at this 30k price region, 28k price region. But, even then Bitcoin was oversold and we didn't really see any upside retaliation. In fact, all we saw was it going from oversold to neutral to a very, very small bounce, then more compression, and then another drop. It was almost like a bear flag formation, right? Horizontal bear flag, but it wasn't quite. And we could very well see another one of those. There's no direct telling as to what's going to happen on Bitcoin here. Just because it's oversold, it doesn't mean it needs to bounce. I mean, we've seen that before. We saw that last month, throughout the entirety of last month. And so it will be interesting to see what occurs, but I'm just informing you guys, and this is kind of almost the main purpose of the video. I'm just informing you guys that we do have 48 hours until the weekly candle closes, right? And I'm telling you right now, historically speaking, we have not really closed that much below the 200-week SMA before, right? We have closed in 2020, we closed 3% below the 200-week SMA, right? Going back to 2014, we closed 2% below the 200-week SMA, but right now we are upwards of 8% below the 200-week SMA. Okay, so an 8% close below the 200-week SMA wouldn't be a fake out like those two occurrences. That would be a clear and concise break below. And that whole narrative that people have been building for years and years and years, that Bitcoin never goes below the 200-week SMA, bang, gone. And then there's no indication whatsoever as to where the macro bottom will be, because the only indication we have on Bitcoin, and this is the very interesting thing about it, the only indication we have about macro bottoms on Bitcoin stems from a 200-week SMA. And you could say, well, you could debate that and say, well, what about the monthly chart RSI? You could say, the monthly chart RSI, 44 on the monthly RSI has been the macro bottom for Bitcoin on 2 separate occurrences. However, on both of those occasions that we saw 44 in the RSI, we were testing with 200-week SMA, and so they're kind of linked up. It's the same thing. It's arguing the same case. You're just saying it in a different way. And so that brings me back to the point. The 200-week SMA is the only evidence of Bitcoin in terms of macro bottoms we have. And so if we lose that, we're literally in the dark. We have no indication as to where Bitcoin will go. And I have said in previous videos, I think potential bottom points will be the 300-week SMA, which would be in Q4, by the way, which is stemmed off the 4-year cycle theory. 300-week SMA, which would be October to December, okay? And then I've also said before, we could go as low as 13.5k to 11.5k, which if we zoom in is actually a horizontal support zone. We can see 13.5k. I'll just list it out quickly. 13.5 to 11.5. There's a lot of support in that region from the 2017 bull market, from the 2018 bear market, and also throughout the entirety of that 2019-2020 consolidation period. or accumulation period, I should say. And I definitely could see a scenario in which Bitcoin does something like that, swoops the lows, does something like that, and then comes up, not quite as sharp on the way out, right? Something like this. It's a slow accumulation until the bull market, right? People expect, and I've seen a lot of people expect, even analysts who are very close to myself, who I actually value quite a bit, who are just kind of expecting Bitcoin to just bottom out, roughly around here, and then just do something like that. And it's like, well, it's completely irrational, right? Bitcoin's not going to have a V-shaped recovery because we don't see V-shaped recoveries in bear markets. It just doesn't happen, right? Going to, for example, the 4-year cycle theory, we can see the 4-year cycle theory has been followed to the T exactly, right? And if we bottom out in Q4 and then you say we're going to see a V-shaped recovery theory, it's like a V-shaped recovery. It's like, well, you're going against all of the macro history you have in Bitcoin. And also you're going against the FA, which is we're in a recession. What makes you think we're going to come out of a recession, the biggest recession in decades, and just go V-shape and just go right back up within a matter of months? It's ridiculous, right? It's not based in logic. It's based in hopium, in my opinion. And I think we're more likely to kind of consolidate for a bit, then finally swoop down for our final low in Q4, and then just see a slow, gradual increase until the end of 2025, when we'll just ramp up, right? That's what's more likely. And if we actually zoom out, that looks a lot more logical than just doing something like this, zip, zip, and just going back to all-time highs within a matter of a year. Not really how it works. In fact, the 4-year cycle is quite good at predicting when we will reach our all-time high past the bear market. And generally speaking, I mean, if we look at 2013, we topped out in November 2013. We reached the all-time high again in April 2017, so about a year and a half. Sorry, that's not a year and a half. But the point is, it takes a considerable amount of time, about 3.5 years, right? And then in 2017, December 2017, we reached the all-time high in December 2020. So that's about 3 years, okay? So about 3 years and a half and about 3 years. And so if we're taking the macro bottom from 2022 here and we apply 3 years to that, we're looking at Q4 2025 as the period in which we get past the all-time high again. Okay, and that's actually all the way here near the top, right? So, quite an interesting kind of thing to start looking at and start taking consideration about. I think I might have stuffed up those calculations there, but the point is a V-shaped recovery is not on the table here at all. Especially with the recession, and if we look at the fractal of what this recession is going to look like, right? This is the current S&P 500 chart. I'll delete this, and we've just literally just copy and pasted the 2008 financial crisis recession fractal from the S&P 500 on the same time frame, right? It's the last recession we had on the same time frame. We've copied it. We've just applied it over top. You can see the similarities are absolutely almost insane, right? They're uncanny similarities, right? Run up, dip, 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 run up, and then the final crash, right? Those similarities, you're just not going to get anything more clear than that. And that fractal, people say, oh, fractals don't always play out. It's like, well, this fractal's already played out, right? It's 80% complete. So it's a really successful fractal. And with that said, and given the current macro environment, it would be logical to assume we just keep following it. If we go back to 2008, and we see what the recovery was in 2008, even though the S&P 500, you don't see a V-shaped recovery, right? Sharp crash, and then very gradual incline, right? It took from the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4.5 years to reach the levels we saw at the peak before the crash, in 2013, almost 4.5 years, right? So, to say that, oh yeah, we're going to see a V-shaped recovery, again, it's just not based on logic, not only in traditional markets, but also in the Bitcoin markets and what we've seen historically in the 4-year cycle. So I would like to discard that out the window once and for all, get over it. You're going to have to wait around. There's going to be consolidation. There's going to be extensive accumulation. Take it as a time to learn about TA. Take it as a time to learn about the markets instead of just praying for this, impossible V-shaped recovery, especially in the macro environment. If we look at Bitcoin in the hourly chart and we actually flip it upside down, this is another indication of, how oversold we really are. So again, flipping it back to regular, this is what it looks like in the hourly chart. We're seeing some rounding out, flipping it back to inverted here. So this is upside down chart. You can see that this is a bearish pattern for Bitcoin, right? Or a bearish pattern for the inverted chart, I should say, right? So you see a massive spike upwards, and then you see this slowing down. And generally speaking, when you see something like this, you generally want to see it round out and then come back down to a lower support zone, either here at 23.8K or that lower yellow line at around 27.1K. If we flip that back around, it looks something like this. And then from that point, we can either break out to the upside and see a proper dead cat bounce to to like 32, or we can just reject further and just do something like that, and then finally drop down, possibly towards, the end of July, early August, something like that. So that's what we're looking at for Bitcoin right now. Massively oversold, right? Massively oversold. The next 48 hours, are going to be critically important, right? So, that's what's interesting, right? We're so oversold, but we're just not seeing the bounce, right? It's just not coming, right? And that's because of the traditional markets, but it's simply not coming. And so within the next 48 hours, we're going to need to see the bounce if we want to have any sliver of hope to maintaining the chance of Bitcoin bottoming out on the 200-week SMA, which is what it's typically done. Do I think it will get back above it? If I had to guess, I'd probably say it won't, but it's very, very hard to say going into the weekend. Regardless, I think it will lose it eventually. I don't think it's going to hold given the macro environment. I think we need to bottom out in Q4. Q4 is at least 3.5 months away, and the macro environment is showing no signs of getting better. In fact, it's getting worse and worse, and that's going to drag Bitcoin down below the 200-week SMA and ultimately put us at a bottom between 11.5K and 18K, probably 13.5K and 11.5K, somewhere around there. Very hard to say at this point. But yeah, no, I don't think we're at the bottom. But I think the 48 hours, nevertheless, will be interesting because it could determine whether we see a dead cat bounce or not. What I can say is that if we do get back above a 200-week SMA, within the next 40 hours, we close above it, we probably will be seeing a bounce of some sort and then dropping down later. I don't think we just get back above it and immediately lose it again, right? Usually when you maintain a level for support, like the 200-week SMA, you're going to convince a lot of the people in the market that the bottom is in. And that's what this will do. That's exactly what it will do. It will act as a bull trap, right? So if we close above the 200, it will act as a bull trap in which a lot of people will be like, well, look, it held it just like it did in the last three cycles, the last three occurrences. So, maybe it's going to hold it again, and then they'll put their life savings into the Bitcoin, and then eventually we'll lose it and they'll get wrecked, right? That's essentially how it usually goes. And that's how I'm assuming it's going to go this time to a certain extent. Again, not really sure, but again, 48 hours, 22.4K is the level we need to be looking at. Sorry for being a little bit indecisive, right? The point is, I don't want to be decisive right now because, as I said in yesterday's video, I don't think TA is at the utmost priority right now. I think that the FA, the fundamentals, the macro situation, holds a lot more weight than the TA. Obviously, TA still works. Obviously, support levels are still important because, market participants make actions, buying or selling, based on the TA. But the TA is solely driven by how far the S&P 500 is going down. And that's why I'm saying that, my predictions, do they really matter? Not really. What matters is where the SPX goes. And my predictions on the SPX say that the SPX is going to go down. So everything else is just kind of following that. So I suppose it is TA to a certain extent, depends on your definition, but it's not the direct sort of TA we usually see have the full effect in the market. So without further ado, I'll look at a few things and then we'll sign off here. First and foremost, if you want to take advantage of the bear market and learn how to trade, learn how to do TA, take a look at the Become a Trader course, 10-unit course from the Crypto Academy developed by myself and Megawell Crypto, a fellow analyst in the space. We teach you everything from market patterns, candlestick indicators, everything you need to know about trading, market psychology, how to find trades in this course in 10 units, which should ideally be done over the course of 10 weeks, but you have it for your lifetime and you can do it however long you want, right? It's about a 40-hour course, so most people could probably, if they had a full week, they could probably sit down and get it done in a week. But people who have full-time jobs and families, it might take them a couple months, and that's fine. You have it for a lifetime, so you can do it at your own pace. And so, moving down the page here, we can see we've got a Trustpilot. Go and read some of the reviews, and then you can email us here for the payment information and a preview of what the course looks like. Moving forward, we have Wolves of Crypto VIP. Click the join button, and you can see all the perks you get with this: Altcoin Trading Signals, Prioritised Reply to Comments, 2-hour video on market psychology, and a weekly newsletter access, all for just 28 USD a month, an absolute bargain. And then moving forward as well, we have the exchange that we use for the VIP group and Wolves of Crypto YouTube channel, which is BitGet, right? And this is our futures exchange, because a lot of the trades we do are futures, purely to take advantage of the shorting aspect of it. And this is half the fees of Binance for spot and futures, and so it is easily the logical choice for spot and futures. Very, very low fees and no scam wicks. It actually has systems in place, unlike Binance, to reduce the amount of scam wicks on the exchange, so you're not going to get liquidated by a fault of the exchange. If you get liquidated, it's your fault and it's the chart's fault. It's better than it being the exchange's fault, because then it's completely out of your control. So if you want to sign up to BitGet, get access to up to $4,000 in rewards for completing a few tasks as well on the exchange, which, as you can see in the reward center here, we'll click on that, $4,163 in rewards for completing tasks. Check out the referral link in the pinned comment or the description below. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. And I'm excited to see what happens with the 200-week SMA here. So thanks. I'll catch you in the next one.